Were it not for Ultravox Vienna sleeve designer Glenn Travis' bold typography reassuring fans that the stark, monochromatic cover photo by Brian Griffin was indeed Ultravox, the band's fourth album might well have escaped the attention of their fan base. Such was the radical change of direction following the arrival of new lead singer Midge Ure. The stylish visual overhaul reflected the musical shift contained within the record. The glam-influenced art rock of the band's previous 3 albums had been replaced by sparse synth pop and killer melodies, resulting in a less pretentious entity capable of breaking through to a mainstream audience. As the 1970s drew to a close, the disarray within Ultravox made the band's breakup a very real possibility. A lack of commercial success under John Foxx's leadership had led to the group being dropped by Island Records, and a last-ditch attempt to save them with a US tour instead resulted in implosion. Fox and guitarist Robin Simon departed, leaving the remaining members, Warren Cann, Chris Cross and Billy Currie, with little more than debts, doubts and dilemmas. Facing financial ruin and an uncertain future, the trio were forced to take on session work to generate income. Chris worked with James Honeyman Scott from The Pretenders, Warren with Zane Griff and The Buggles, while Billy contributed to Gary Newman's The Pleasure Principle album and tour before going on to work on the Visage debut album. It was during the latter project that Billy was introduced to Ure by Rusty Egan. Egan knew Midge was a fan of Ultravox, and that the band needed both a vocalist and a guitarist. Ure was both, and Rusty was convinced they'd be a perfect fit. With his eclectic musical background, Ure was beginning to feel creatively limited by Visage. Though proud of the work he was doing, the group was a studio-based project designed solely to create dance music for London's club scene, curated by Egan and Steve Strange. Before joining the synth-pop outfit, Ure had already scored a #1 hit with Slick, turned down Malcolm McLaren's offer to front the Sex Pistols, co-written a track with Phil Lynott for Thin Lizzy, and achieved moderate success with the Rich Kids. While writing the latter's second album, Ure and Egan had expressed a desire to incorporate electronic elements into the group's sound. They'd bought synthesizers and were influenced by Kraftwerk and Can, but their vision was vetoed by the other members, ultimately leading to the Rich Kids split. As a wave of synthesized soundscapes swept away guitar-driven pop dominance, Ure carried forward his concept of a fully functioning group, one that would record, perform live, and combine elements of rock and electronica. It was a vision that tied together all aspects of his musical journey to date. The outcome of Ure's initial meeting with Ultravox was overwhelmingly positive. The band appreciated his vision and had only one condition. They wanted more creative input after years under Fox's dominance. They sought to work as a collaborative unit. Ure agreed, and it was decided that all credits and earnings would be shared equally among the 4 members, sidestepping any future arguments over money or hierarchy. The partnership was sealed with a jam session which, as Ure later told UK Music Reviews, was the most glorious noise that you have ever heard. Ultravox knew all about synthesizers, drum machines, clicks and samples. It really was amazing, he said. From that moment, it was sealed in stone. I joined Ultravox after John and Rob left, which totally changed the band's dynamics. Musically, we all knew that incorporating new elements is like musical Jenga. You remove some pieces, add others, and the whole structure changes. It's a different beast, a different form. I didn't make it better or worse. It was just different because I was now part of the band. We were a 4-piece, we thought differently, and we responded to each other differently. With the new lineup in place, the band began writing and rehearsing, adapting to each other's styles and exploring the differences between Ure and Fox. Almost immediately, they wrote a batch of songs that would form the foundation of the Vienna album. Astrodyne, New Europeans, and Mr. X emerged from these first sessions, with Warren Cann taking on much of the lyric writing, clearly enjoying his newfound creative freedom. as the group blended their influences to forge a musical identity. Some songs were discarded or redirected. One of Ure's early compositions was deemed unsuitable for Ultravox, but was reworked with Phil Lynott to become Yellow Pearl, later used as the top of the Pops theme between 1981 and 1986. Ure's Thin Lizzy connection also temporarily halted Ultravox's momentum when he accepted a short-term offer to replace Gary Moore on a US tour with Journey in 1979. The money earned funded new equipment and studio time for Ultravox. Upon his return, the band resumed writing and rehearsing, producing tracks such as Private Lives, Passing Strangers, and All Stood Still. They devised a loose conceptual framework for the record. It should feel epic and cinematic. Every track was for a movie that didn't exist, Ure later told The Guardian. With enough material for an album or EP, the next step was to play live, solidifying the new lineup and generating industry buzz. Still unsigned, Ultravox opted to tour the US, where they could refine their act without facing the same scrutiny as at home. Before heading to America in December 1979, they performed several secret warm-up gigs across the UK. These were partly to reassure fans that Ultravox were continuing post-Fox and partly to drum up interest. The tour culminated in a showcase gig at London's Electric Ballroom on 1st February 1980. The performance caught the attention of Chrysalis Records, who offered to fund some demo recordings. The band chose to reunite with producer Connie Plank, who had worked on Systems of Romance. Rather than record 3 standard demos, they focused on producing one track, Sleepwalk, to a master standard. The gamble paid off. Sleepwalk secured them a record deal with Chrysalis. With the contract signed and Ure's legal obligations to the Rich Kids resolved, Ultravox got to work on the album. Their process involved long jam sessions, captured on tape, which they later mined for ideas, constructing songs around standout moments. Often, the music came first, with lyrics following its lead. With Passing Strangers, Western Promise, and Vienna, they had their album. Recording began at Rack Studios in London and was completed in just 10 days. Mixing took place over the following 2 weeks at Plank's studio in Germany. Just 4 months after signing to Chrysalis, Ultravox released Sleepwalk, their first single with Midge Ure, on 16th June 1980. Despite Chrysalis refusing to fund a video, the single reached number 29 in the UK, becoming the band's first chart hit. The album had a working title of Talk Point, but by its release on 11 July 1980, the band had renamed it Vienna, after their favourite track, which had also proved the most popular in live performances. The group lobbied for Vienna to be released as a single, but the label pushed back, claiming it was too long, too experimental, and too theatrical. Refusing to edit the song, the band cited Bohemian Rhapsody and Wuthering Heights as successful examples of unconventional singles. Their protests were ignored, and Passing Strangers was released instead, complete with a label-funded video. When Passing Strangers stalled at number 57 despite heavy promotion, Chrysalis grew concerned about the album's sales and finally agreed to release Vienna in its original form in January 1981. The result was a sensation, spending a month at number 2 on the UK charts and selling over 500,000 copies. The single's success transformed the album's fortunes, propelling it to a peak of number 3. A fourth and final single, All Stood Still, gave Ultravox their second top 10 hit in May 1981, proving that any purist fans who had abandoned the group had been amply replaced. With Ultravox, Vienna becoming one of the best-selling albums of 1981, and Midge and Billy's continued success with Visage, the reinvented Ultravox emerged as defining figures of a new musical era.